whole bunch of people out there that might be the best pianist in the world, but they've never had the discipline to learn piano. So nobody knows.
You never know your full potential if you don't have the discipline.
Yeah, you're right. And if you don't have discipline, you don't have anything, right? People often say to me, oh, but Tate, you're lucky. You're a kickboxer and you were talented. Yeah, I was talented, but I didn't find out I was talented until I was disciplined. If I wasn't disciplined enough to train, I would have never seen my talent.
The discipline to work hard is at the core of Andrew's success and probably all of the people you look up to. But what does discipline actually mean?
I don't feel motivated to do them. I'm disciplined. I do them regardless of how I feel. Whether I'm in the mood to do it or I'm not in the mood to do it, it gets done. That's discipline.
Doing what needs to be done regardless of how you feel, but also...
Well, that's what discipline is, really. It's the ability to stay focused on one thing for a long period of time.
The ability to focus on one thing for a long time. But how do you practically do that? By the end of this video, you will know the 2 practical things Andrew does and the mental framework that Andrew uses every day to immediately become more disciplined without extra effort. He calls it his superpower. And here Andrew shares the first practical thing he did back then and still does until today.
So all you have to do is find the motivation to say things. I say to Tristan, yeah, I'm going to go on that train. I'm going to train 5 hours. If I said it, that was it. I had to do it. Because I couldn't live with myself knowing I was one of them.
People like to be consistent with the things they have previously said or done. This is one of the 7 principles proven to work by Dr. Robert Cialdini, who wrote the best-selling book, The Psychology of Persuasion. He has written about it so you can use it to persuade other people, like mentioned here.
So funny because the whole time I'm cooking anything, preparing, he's like, oh, you're really good at this. You're really great at this. Good job. You're doing amazing.
But you can also use it to persuade yourself, like Andrew mentioned. So say what you're going to do to another person and you then find it very hard to not do it because you want to be consistent with what you just said. Here's another practical advice from Andrew that actually has a deep reason behind it.
Heartbreak is unlimited motivation. If I was heartbroken, it's been a very long time, but if I was heartbroken, I'd be in the gym every morning. I'd be a beast. I'd be running. I'd be working. I couldn't sleep. I'd be an absolute animal.
Heartbreak gave Andrew unlimited motivation, even though he believes motivation is a scam.
And motivation in and of itself is a scam. I don't believe in motivation. I believe in discipline.
Because motivation is only brief.
Discipline's a real thing. Motivation is fleeting.
Yeah.
You're never going to be permanently motivated.
But you can still use heartbreaks, but also any other energy to be disciplined. Here Andrew explains a theory that I never heard before, and one that works extremely well for him, so it might as well for you. Listen closely.
And I'm going to come up with a theory which you're going to call complete garbage because I am not qualified, but this is my theory.
Yeah, go for it.
I believe that emotional energy is a lot like a bucket of water. Mm-hmm. You have all this emotional energy, right? You have a bucket of water, and then you have a bunch of different holes you can pour it down.
When you wake up, you start with 1 bucket of water and empty holes to put the water in.
So I believe if you wake up one day and you feel particularly depressed, you don't feel depressed. You just have a lot of emotional energy that day. Some days you don't have that much emotional energy and life is pretty calm. But some days you wake up and you have this big bucket of water. And the superpower is deciding which emotion you're going to put it in. Not to not feel the energy, but to decide which emotion you're going to put it in.
So you can see all of those empty holes as your different emotions. And you can choose which emotion you give water.
And I think that's my superpower. I don't have the superpower of being able to stop myself feeling things. Yeah. I have the superpower of being able to choose how I use that energy and what I decide to feel.
It's a superpower to choose the right hole all the time. And this is the hole you should avoid.
And then if you want to be hyper successful as a person, you have to be very careful to avoid the happy hole. Because happy is what everyone thinks they would choose. If you had this emotional energy and could choose any emotion, you'd choose happy. But if you choose happy, you don't get much done.
Avoid the happy hole, because it's a mental state where you don't get much done. Instead, choose this hole.
If I had to choose how I wanted to feel all the time, I would choose proud. And proud means you have to work. Proud means you have to do things. You have to achieve things. If you want to be proud and be realistic, you have to do fantastic things. So my default favorite emotion is proud. That's how I'm happiest when I feel proud about anything.
So choose pride as your default hole, because in order to fill that hole, you need to do pride-worthy things. And when you achieve them, your body releases dopamine.
Releases dopamine in the brain when we do hard work.
Which is what I have to do. I have to win all the time. I love proud.
You feel good.
You have to feel good.
Releasing dopamine feels good. And here Andrew explains the differences between the 2 things that release dopamine.
I don't like happy. If I feel happy, giddish happiness like a child or like a females usually default to happy. They don't care how they get there. They just want to get there.
Right.
They just want to feel happy. Right. I avoid the happy hole because I think people who are desperate to only feel happy are the ones who are addicts, you know, gambling addicts, drug addicts, drink too much, do dumb shit. It's all temporary, no delayed gratification. That's how you destroy your life, choosing the happy hole.
So keep in mind that if something gives you this happy feeling immediately, it's probably part of the instant gratification. But when Andrew was in jail, he almost didn't have anything that gives him instant gratification, apart from some cigarettes and some cigars. So this is how Andrew handled his emotions in prison.
We were talking earlier about jail and how when I felt particularly bad, I'd wake up with a whole bunch of emotional energy. It's unchanneled, it's a bit wild, so I guess that can be perceived as sad or depressed. You're out of your routine. So I would sit and go, okay, I have all this emotional energy today, where am I going to put it? And I'd put it in a place where perhaps on that day I might feel happy, or perhaps I'd choose something else, but I would try my very best to take all the energy and put it into a place where feeling that emotion was the most competitive emotion, or was the perfect emotion for me to be as competitive as possible in that particular scenario. So yeah, on days where I woke up and I felt a little bit sad, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to turn the charm on today. I'm going to make everybody laugh.
Right.
And by the end of the day, I felt fantastic.
He uses his superpower to empty the bucket of water into the hole that he decides is best for him that day. And most often he chooses the hole of pride, because it forces him to do the thing that makes him proud, to put himself through the suffering that is required for greatness. And that's the second practical thing: focus on the right emotion. So to summarize, number 1, look at your emotions as holes that you decide to pour water in. Number 2, understand that negative energy like heartbreaks or anger is still energy. Number 3, decide that your default emotion is to be proud of yourself. Number 4, tell the people around you that you're going to do it. For example, you tell your mother you go to the gym at 8 p.m. So you persuade it yourself and will be very likely to commit to it, because it is proven to work by Dr. Robert Cialdini. If you want to know things that work for me, subscribe to my free newsletter below this video. It's my goal to make these videos so good that you actually want to share them with a friend on WhatsApp. I'm Jordan, I did over $3 million in revenue and I've hired over 50 people. And my hack to stay disciplined is to remember to start living my life like it is a documentary. Because it is. Someone is just not filming you yet. Subscribe for more.